A lot of people know they have habits. What they do not always know is which habits are helping and which ones are quietly hurting. And that matters because not every habit that feels normal is actually supportive. Some habits heal, they help you feel steadier, clearer, more alive, more supported in your own life. And some habits harm, not always dramatically, not always all at once, but quietly, repeatedly, over time, they drain energy, increase friction, pull you further away from yourself. They make life harder to carry. That's why this question matters so much. How do you tell the difference between habits that heal and habits that harm? Because once you can see that more clearly, your choices start changing too. A lot of people have been taught to think about habits in a very shallow way. Good habits versus bad habits. Be stricter, be more disciplined, try harder. But the real distinction is often deeper than that. The better question is not only, is this habit good or bad? It becomes, what is this habit doing to my life over time? Is it helping more than it hurts? Is it supporting recovery, clarity and steadiness? Or is it increasing stress, confusion, fragility and drift? That's a much more useful way to look at things, because healing habits are not about moral perfection. They're about support. One of the biggest things I've learned is that the habits that harm are often not dramatic. They're often ordinary. The extra bit of scrolling, the missed sleep, the constant rushing, the too little movement, the convenience that becomes a pattern, the stress you never really come down from, the habit of ignoring what your body is asking for. And because they're ordinary, people often miss their effect. But repeated over time, they shape a life. That is why this distinction matters, because a habit does not need to look extreme to be harmful. And a habit does not need to look impressive to be healing. The first thing to understand is that habits that heal usually support your system. They help restore something: balance, energy, recovery, clarity, maybe movement, calm, presence, readiness for life. They may be small: a walk, a better rhythm, a pause, cooking something real, going to bed a bit earlier, stepping outside, taking 5 minutes to reset. They do not always feel dramatic, but they usually leave you more supported than before. That's one of the clearest signs. A habit that heals tends to help you feel more like yourself, not less. And that leads to the second thing. Habits that harm usually create more friction than support. Sometimes they give short-term relief, but long-term, they often leave you more tired, more disconnected, more inflamed, more reactive, more stuck, more dependent on the next short-term fix. And that is important, because some harmful habits do not feel harmful in the moment. They feel convenient, numbing, easy, automatic. But what matters is the pattern they create over time. This is why daily life needs attention, because daily life is where these patterns repeat. And that is also why the third point matters so much. Healing habits usually increase capacity. Harming habits usually reduce it. A healing habit makes life easier to hold. It may improve your energy, your patience, your movement, your recovery, your decision making, your sense that you can cope. A harming habit tends to do the opposite. It narrows capacity. It makes you feel more fragile, more depleted, more likely to drift into survival mode. That is a very useful filter. Ask, does this habit increase my capacity over time, or does it reduce it? That question alone can tell you a lot. The fourth thing to understand is that context matters. The same broad action can support one person and drain another depending on how it's used. That is why healing habits is not just about copying a list. It is about learning how you work. A habit only really becomes a healing habit when it fits your real life and genuinely supports your system. So the point is not to judge yourself harder. It is to notice more honestly what leaves me clearer, what leaves me heavier, what helps me come back to myself, what leaves me more drained, more foggy, or more stretched. That is how wisdom starts building. The final thing to understand is that this distinction is the beginning of change. Because once you can see the difference between habits that heal and habits that harm, you stop trying to fix everything in one dramatic move. You start adjusting direction, a little less of what harms, a little more of what heals. That is how real change often begins. Quietly, repeatedly, in ordinary life. That is the heart of healing habits, not perfection, learning to notice what helps, learning to notice what hurts. Then building a life that supports you more than it drains you. And once you start seeing habits this way, there's something else that matters too. Because even when people know what helps, they still often struggle to keep it going. And that is where the next question begins. So watch the next video where I break down why people struggle to stay consistent even when they know what helps and what to do about that in real life.